You're tuned in to Ask the Master Auto Technician. Car questions? Get answers right now. Call 850-763-0555.
James Auto Center, we fix it right, guaranteed. Beep, 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 yeah.
All right, we're back. During the break, I took a look to see where the mode actuator was. Lee, I'm sitting here looking at this Cadillac. The mode actuator is on the driver's side, and you can get to it without pulling the dash. That's the mode actuator. I can see that one, and the other ones are blend door, and but you say you disconnected the ones on both left and right side, and you can still hear one in there clicking. Is that what you're telling me? Okay, well there's two on the driver's side, and one's the mode door, which is the one closest to the closest to you. There's two on the driver's side, one towards the firewall and one towards you. That one closest to you is the mode actuator, and that's the one I'm talking about. But what I'm going to recommend, this is not one of these easy ones to be able to be changed by anybody. Like I said, it sometimes takes two people to hold everything just right to get everything to line up. But it can be done without pulling the dash. But it is going to be, you do need to recalibrate it, and they are talking about in the technical service bulletin about a reprogramming for this as well, that to solve this, keep this problem from happening again. If you would like to come by James Auto Center, we're here Monday through Friday from can to can't just about, and let us know you're coming by here. I'll grab my factory scanner, I'll plug it in there, I'll do a sweep test on them, and I'll tell you, yeah, this one's bad or this one's good, and then you can either go home and fix it yourself, or you can let us or we'll give you an estimate of what it's going to take for us to repair it. That sound reasonable?
Okay.
That's the best.
I'll do it.
That's the best I can do on that one, sir. But I think you can change that without pulling the dash. So pay attention to it. Put your hand on it. Look on the ones on the driver's side between you and the center hump right there. It's going to be right there. I think you'll see it. Put your finger on it. Okay.
All right, thank you, James.
You're very welcome, sir. Thank you for calling. Hey, this is James Morris. You got a car question. That's what we're here for. I've got Jason with the 92 Camry. Okay, 92 Camry. Jason, tell me a little bit about this 92 Camry.
I'm not real sure what's going on with it. Yesterday or Sunday, my brakes went out.
Yeah.
And I bled the lines and stuff just to make sure. Right. And then I heard some air coming through when I matched the brake. So I went ahead and changed the brake booster and the master cylinder. Yeah. And bled the lines again. Yeah. And after all that, I still have no brakes.
Okay, is the pedal hard or the pedal soft?
It's soft. It goes all the way to the floor.
All the way to the floor. Okay. What do I know about this? Okay, you bench bled the master cylinder off the car, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because you got to bench bleed it. If not, it's at a slight angle and you got an air pocket. Okay, if you bench bled it at the car and you put it on there and there was no air in it, and then you went to each wheel and you bled all four of the wheels and you made sure there's no air in it, but you still get no pedal. I'm correct on that, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is your rear brakes adjusted properly? If you pull your emergency brake up, does it work like it's supposed to?
Yes, sir.
All right,
I've been having to use it to stop.
Okay, well, good. I'm just trying to. You got an advantage over me. I can't see what's going on. Here's what I know. Here's what I know over the years. I have seen where the caliper slides on the front of these things that will get stuck, and can you pump the pedal up? If you sit there and pump it, can you get the pedal to pump up?
Well, no, I can't get it to pump at all. I mean, it goes all the way to the floor.
You can't get it to pump at all?
No, I'm lost. I don't know what to do.
If you can't get it to pump at all, where it will not pump up. Now, how do you bleed it? How did you bleed it?
Well, I mean, it'll bleed a little bit, and it goes all the way in, and then you can feel it just move maybe an inch or two once you pop the bleeder valve. Mm-hmm. But then once you cut the car on, it goes right back to no brakes.
Ah, Lord have mercy. Okay, and this problem didn't happen. It happened all of a sudden. No one. You were just driving down the road, and all of a sudden your pedal went to the floor, right?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay. Normally, when a pedal goes to the floor, we have you're a loss of fluid. And you're not losing fluid. But here's what I would. It's an older model car. Geez, you're sure there's no air in it? If you're absolutely sure there's no air in it, then take vice grips and go to each. You have three brake lines, one on the right front, one on the left front, and one going to the rear. Take vice grips, I would put rubber on them, rubber hose on them where they won't damage it, and gently clamp those hoses. See if you get a brake pedal, okay?
Okay.
See if you get a brake pedal. And I don't recommend doing this, but you're at a point where because you got a problem here. And then release one. If you get a pedal when you do that, great. then release one vice grip at a time and see if you still keep a pedal. And if you keep a pedal, that's good, that part's good, but then go to the next one. And what you're going to probably find is you've got a caliper slide that's not letting the caliper go like it's supposed to. It pumps in and pops right back out again because it's stuck. I've seen that happen. Or your brakes are badly out of adjustment. But if you've got this system bled and that master cylinder is good and there's no air in it, I would be blocking off all three of my brake lines, one in the back, and I think you got one going to the back line, and you got one on each front wheel. Block those off and see what your pedal does. If you get a good pedal, release one vice grip at a time and see when your pedal goes to the floor. When your pedal goes to the floor, that's going to be the caliper or wheel cylinder or something that's giving you problems. And I hope that points you in the right direction, because I can fix things. We get cars that come in all the time that people work on, and we fix them. They're not easy. If they were easy, they'd be fixed already. But we had one the other day, the customer go down the road and his brakes would lock up. And we were sitting here going, what's wrong with this guy? And
I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
I do have that problem. Whenever I do stop,
yeah,
the back passenger side wheel locks up and slides a little bit.
Okay, if your back passenger wheel locks up and slides a little bit, I would first I would pull off and look at that wheel and make sure it's not wet. It may be wet with brake fluid, one thing. That's what I'm thinking you got, because I know a back wheel on a car that has drum brakes will lock up if it's wet, and that may be why you don't have a pedal.
Okay.
All right, so it sounds like you're busy. I'll talk to you later, kiddo. Give me a call when you find something out. All right, bye-bye. Like I said, brakes. Like I said, when someone has got brake pedal problems, it's usually something very, very simple that drives you crazy. We had a car, like I said, and we couldn't figure out why his brake pedal, the brakes kept locking up. We first found the brake lines were on backwards, and we said, okay, that might be what the problem is. The right was on the left was on the right, and every time we turn it was getting in a bind. They may have damaged brake lines. We changed that. That didn't fix it. What we did find out was and then we saw that the master cylinder was leaking internally. And so we changed the master cylinder, be saying, well, the only thing that's going to keep pressure is going to be the master cylinder. Something must be applying pressure to the master cylinder. And we saw that the master cylinder was leaking internally into the brake booster. And I mean really leaking into the brake booster. We sucked all that fluid out, changed the master cylinder, put it together. Everything seemed to be fine, but the more we drove it, it did the same thing again. And I said, there's got to be something that's pushing on this brake pedal, not letting it come all the way back. We double-checked all the linkage, couldn't find anything wrong with it. I took the master cylinder back out and looked at the rod that pushes against the master cylinder. There's an insulated piece of rubber we saw in there that's supposed to be, I'd say 1/8 of an inch thick. It was about 3/16 of an inch thick, which is a little bit more, about 1/8 of an inch thicker than it's supposed to be. And that's what was causing the problem. The master cylinder had leaked, gotten brake fluid inside where there's not supposed to be brake fluid, had swelled that seal just ever so slightly, just enough to keep pressure constantly on the master cylinder to allow the brakes to lock up. Was that an easy fix? No. Was it a simple fix? No. But it was very rewarding to figure out what the problem was. And that's what we do at James Auto Center. We're kind of like bulldogs. We're going to stay on a problem and we get it fixed. They're not always easy. When manufacturers write trouble trees and to how to check this and check that, those are for cars under 36, usually under 50 to 75,000 miles. That's because they haven't had a problem, and these are what the manufacturer runs into. But when we get cars that are 10, 12, 15 years old, maybe even older, and they come in with, like we had one yesterday, no power to the inside of the car. Turn the key, nothing lights up. Can't get it out of park, can't get it, nothing. Radio don't work. But if you go outside to the battery, it's fully charged. You got battery voltage to everything in the engine compartment. But you go to the fuse panel, there's no power whatsoever. Yeah. And we kind of looked at that. My guy said, well, what do we need to do first? And I said, well, you know how that goes. Go get a wiring schematic. Let's get a wiring schematic. I know on General Motors, normally if a fusible link blows, and we see the customer's been working on this car a lot, we see he's got new water pumps on it and new front end parts and all this. Maybe he blew, somehow or another, maybe he blew something. Customers never tell you what they do. And so we started checking it out, and we saw that we had power on the outside, but when we got inside, there was no power. So we looked at the schematic, started working backwards, and we found where the customer had worked on the car, did something on the A pillar trying to put in a radio wire and had disconnected a major source of power. Not completely disconnected, just jarred it enough loose so when we reached in over the A pillar to check the wiring on it, everything came back to life again. We go, well, what do we got here? Pulled it apart, took a look and go, looks like someone's been inside here and disconnected something and didn't snap it back together again. That's something you won't find in a trouble tree. You won't ever find that in a trouble tree, trust me, because that's not something that's going to happen. And what was happening, once I told my guy, so he said, I got some voltage here. And I said, well, we'll light up a headlight. And he goes, no, it won't light up a headlight. He said, but it'll light up a test light. And I said, okay, we got a voltage drop. And that's exactly what we saw. The connections were just barely touching, so it wouldn't be enough to let everything turn on. Over a period of time, they'd gotten hot and melted a little bit. And we don't know how long it had been making a poor connection. But once we took it apart, everything came back to life again. We saw it, looked at it, cleaned up the connection, snapped it back together again, tugged on it to make sure it's tight, and put it back together, and everything works just like it's supposed to. Now, I think that car is, what, a 2000 model, Anna Marie? I don't know what it was. It was a Chevy Impala. What?
Oh, yeah, I think it was a 2000, yeah.
It might have even been older.
It was a big land yacht.
Big land yacht, really was. Interesting, though. It really was. It didn't take us terribly long. I mean, it wasn't a 5-minute job or anything, but it's a systematic approach. We grabbed our power probe. Where the car comes in, you can't get it out of park because you got to have power to get one into gear where you could push the car. So my guy's going, man, I got to disconnect the transmission. I said, nope, that's what I'm here for. Reached over there, grabbed a power probe, hooked up the where I can supply power, went to the fuse panel, stuck to my tip of my power probe, gave it 12.5 volts. When I pushed the little button, all of a sudden everything lit up inside the dash. We were able to shift it in neutral and push the car into the shop. I mean, it's a lot better than crawling underneath the car and disconnecting the shift linkage than trying to get everything to line back up again correctly when it's all said and done. But one of the things about being a technician, you try to figure out the easiest way to do something and try to figure out the quickest way to do something. That's why when we realized we had power on the outside of the vehicle, but on the inside we had no power, we knew we had a voltage drop someplace. What I really was suspecting was the ignition switch had burned up, completely fried to a crackly crunch. I said, well, that may be what's wrong with it. I don't know. But what it was just a main power supply wire that comes into the harness wasn't snapped together, and that was due to how we describe this, operator error or repairer error. Well, anyway, they accidentally disconnected and didn't snap it back together again. So remember, when you're snapping connections, always make sure you hear that click. If you don't hear that click and you're not quite sure, pull on it gently to see if it comes apart. If it comes apart or feels like it's loose, repair the connection, replace the connection, whatever you have to do, because it may not affect you now. It may not affect you next year, but trust me, it will affect you, and usually it bites you in the butt really, really badly, and it'll cost you several $100s to repair if you cannot figure out what it is, or the shop can't figure out what it is. This guy didn't spend several $100s to fix it, but it could have been if he had taken it someplace that didn't know exactly how electricity works. Even 12 volts gets people confused. It really does. It's not as easy as I make it sound sometimes. 12 volts can be pretty sneaky trying to figure out where you've lost 3 volts. If you lose 3 volts, nothing's going to work. Voltage drop. Yeah, you can't get lights to come on, or if they barely come on at 9 volts. But when they get down more than, drop more than 4 or 5 volts, nothing comes on. Headlights don't come on, nothing comes on. If you got a car question, give us a call, 850-763-0555. I need to remind everybody that we're teaching beekeeping at Education Encore at Gulf Coast State College every Friday from 2:30 to 3:45 in room 256 in Student Union West. This week's class is... let's see, at lunchtime, Daniel Morthland, who's the president of the Tupelo Beekeepers Club, is going to be talking about beekeeping in general to the lunch crowd at lunchtime from 11 to 12 at Gulf Coast State College. And then from 2:30 to 3:45, I believe he's going to be talking about the year in the life of a beekeeper. What do you do in January? What do you do in February? What do you do in March? What do you do in April? What do you do in May? Believe it or not, all those months are certain things beekeepers and bee havers, people that have bees, need to be looking for and need to be looking out for. If you're a bee haver and you start seeing bees hanging off on the edge, and you're not a beekeeper, it looks like the bee box is getting too crowded, you might need to have a beekeeper come over there before all your bees fly away and join the circus. You don't want that to happen. We'll be back tomorrow morning, everybody. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
James Auto Center. We fix it right.